Okay, so my American artist was Walter Gropius. Walter Gropius. Probably no one ever heard of him. He's really infamous, but he actually is one of the most influential architects in the 20th century, and he had a huge impact on and the development of modernism and how we picture modernism today. So who was that guy?
Oh, the arrow's on the top. Are you hitting the right?
Yeah.
You gotta click on the. You gotta click on the. And then click.
Sorry.
Wait, on what?
With your mouse, click on the
Click on the side of the
yeah.
mouse.
Boom.
And now it should work.
Oh, the devil.
There it goes.
Aha. Okay. He was born 1883 in Germany, and he spent his whole lifetime there. Became then eventually, like his uncle and his father, an architect, which is actually kind of funny because he was awful at drawing. But yeah, just a fun fact. Then one of his peaks in his career was 1918 when he founded Bauhaus, which is translated something like a building school. And that was basically, as the name implies, a school where not just architects but also painters and all kind of artists just came together and created art the whole day. Looked a little bit like that, and actually the Bauhaus was not just the building itself, it was also a new architectural style that Gropius invented, and he built the house himself. And yeah, I think you can already see some characteristics, but I'm going to tell you about that later. Okay. Unfortunately, then in the beginning of the 1930s, with the Nazi regime, it got harder and harder for artists to create art, and unfortunately, he under ongoing pressure from the government, he had to leave Germany, which happened in 1934, and then he traveled to different European states, for example, Great Britain, and then eventually to the United States. In the United States, he arrived 1937, and luckily he already built his reputation as a great artist, and so immediately after he came to the United States, Harvard University offered him a position as a teacher. And he was really grateful about that because he loved teaching. That's what he did in Germany, and he was really passionate about it. So then in 1944, he finally became a U.S. citizen, and 1 year later, in 1945, he created the TAC, which is the Architects Collaborative. I hope that's pronounced that way. And that was basically an architectural firm that Gropius found with some of his students and other colleagues. And they basically created buildings, and they were really respected. And after a couple of years, so in a really short amount of time, they became the reputation as one of the most respected architectural firms at that time. And they realized some great buildings. For example, the Harvard Graduation Center. Which of course makes sense, they were all students at Harvard, and so they were chosen to create the graduation center. And then what I really like, actually, the Embassy of the United States, which looks like that. Really modern, kind of futuristic. Okay, so I think you already saw some of the characteristics in those pictures I showed you. So first of all, not to confuse you with both names, Bauhaus and International Style. Some people say that they're actually the same. I wouldn't say that they're exactly the same, but the International Style is basically the style that evolved from the Bauhaus when Walter Gropius came here. And Gropius was not the only one who used the International Style. Also, the other architects that came from Germany or from all over Europe used that style. So yeah, some of the characteristics. Okay, some of the characteristics. The main idea of the International Style was the marriage of beauty and simplicity, and Gropius thought that with geometrical forms and shapes, they're really beautiful and they're really efficient at the same time. And therefore, actually all of the International Style buildings have flat roofs, and they're made out of geometrical forms, which can be seen in this picture, which is well, okay. Which is in Chicago, by the way. You can see a lot of glass, geometric like rectangles, and looks really nice, I think. And Chicago in general there are a lot of international style built buildings. Then another one, asymmetry to emphasize different elements, and really important, the main elements he used were stone, steel, and glass. And you can see that oh yeah, another effect, the glass curtain wall. I think you all have seen it before. It was also created by Gropius and gives like the building a really nice, modern, open, bright look. I like it. And then the UN Secretariat in New York City, which is not that beautiful to be honest. But it belongs to one of it shows up. Oh yeah, it belongs to one of the most famous buildings of the international style. You can see it's just a big block, kind of. A lot of glass though, a lot of steel, and yes. But he was not just as an architect really influential. He also had influence on other areas. You already probably read technology. Well, how can an architect have influence on technology? It's actually quite simple because Elliot Noyi, that's his name, he was a former student of Gropius, and he later then became the CEO of IBM. And when he became the CEO, the first advice he gave to his managers was everything goes with everything, and that was basically the advice that Gropius taught him, or that Gropius told him. And then when he became CEO, he designed the selectric typewriter, which looks like that, and it's today considered as one of the pioneering elements in technology, in American technology. And then also, Steve Jobs later used Gropius' international style and his elements to build the Mac and the iPod. Another influence was in the late 1940s, there was a huge need for buildings after the World War, and the international style was just the easiest and most efficient way to create buildings. And so there were a lot of new buildings that were built in this style. And then, as I already said, unfortunately, Gropius had to flee Germany, and so had to do his colleagues and students. And most of his students, though, they didn't flee to the United States, they fled to Israel. And they became architects in Israel. And there they helped build the city of Tel Aviv, which is today the second largest city in Israel. Oh, it's actually supposed to be over there. Yeah, anyway, it looks kind of like that. And most of the high-rise skyscrapers are built in the international style. And yeah, so they helped build this. Then, but yeah, okay. But Israel was not the only is not the only place where you can see the influence of the international style. Also, in a lot of American, really big, really famous cities. For example, Chicago. Once more. Wow. Okay. There are a lot of buildings in the international style. A lot of glass, a lot of steel. Then the John F. Kennedy Federal Building, which is in Boston. And then, fun fact, we don't have a skyline, but my school in Germany was also built at the international style, which looks like that. I don't know it has a problem with me. Yeah, you can see a lot, very open, bright, a lot of glass, a lot of steel. But anyways, one of the most famous skylines in the world was also influenced by this, which is New York City. New York City is there's one building that was created by Gropius himself, and it's actually one of the tallest. It's this one right there, the MetLife building. It looks like that. And it still belongs to one of the 50 tallest buildings in the United States, and it measures about 808 feet. Okay. All right. Well, but Gropius, of course, wanted to have a house for himself as well and for his family, and so he decided to build a house in Lincoln, Massachusetts. And he basically, with this house, he wanted to embody all the elements he taught at Harvard University, and so he wanted to all combine that and then build his own house. And it was finished in 1938, and today it's actually a tourist attraction. It's a museum because it's a very nice mix actually between Old English architecture and new innovative materials like stone, steel, glass, and chrome also. And yeah, he also wanted it to kind of blend into the nature. That was one of his goals as well, like Wright did with the prairie style. But yeah, why am I telling you about the Gropius house? It's not that spectacular. Well, since I did an architect, I thought for my emulation, I built one of his houses, of course. And since I'm in a digital arts class, I thought I'm just going to do it in a computer program. So I did that. And then I thought, well, if I just show it to you like that in a computer program, it's kind of, I don't know, boring. Since an architect is not the most interesting thing anyway. And so I'm in a video game production class as well, and so I decided let's just build kind of a video game thing-ish. And that's what I did. It's certainly not flawless, it's not perfect. I can also not play it in high resolution because I created on a different computer. And yeah, so what I did is I built one of his houses and then created the terrain and basically set the house into the terrain. Created a nice little sunset feeling-ish.
And you can get rid of that update in the upper right-hand corner if you want to. Just slide it out. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Whoa.
Oh, that shouldn't have happened.
That shouldn't have happened.
There
Okay.
you go.
Whoa, there we go. Okay. So it's kind of laggy to be honest. So I'm just gonna get up here and you got like a little pond or whatever. That's cool. That's basically
so awesome.
the Gropius house. I'm just gonna walk around really quick. And there's a really famous entrance with like the rectangular-ish roof thing, which looks a little like that. I don't know what the texture flickering, what's going on there, but yeah, that's basically my emulation.
And you do have a couple minutes if you'd like to take questions.
Sure.
Any questions about Walter Gropius?